Hey guys, so Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerun came out this week, and there's a bunch of new player options available in the game. And this is going to be my first character build video utilizing this new book. It's mostly going to be using the Scion of the Three Rogue, which is a new rogue subclass that they added in this book. I'm going to be using a lot of the new feat options, and I'm going to do a few levels in the brand new updated Bladesinger. This build ends up doing a ton of damage. It's a very versatile build, and it has some of the highest armor class I've had on a build in a while. I'm going to break down this character build from level 1 all the way to level 20. I'm going to go over the damage averages and all of that. So if that sounds interesting to you, hi, I'm Warners. I make tons of D&D content, mostly build videos. And every month on my Patreon, I come out with a new 2024 rules compatible subclass. Last month, I came out with the Path of the Executioner Barbarian. And this month, I'm going to be coming out with the Inquisitor Rogue. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check out my Patreon down below. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get started with the build. So I'm going to start with the background. We're actually going with a brand new background. It is the Mulhorandi Tomb Raider. This is a region in Faerun that is not super well known. And based on what the background says, it seems to be sort of a kind of ancient Egyptian-ish kind of influence, a deserty place with a lot of old tombs, and apparently the gods walk the earth in this little area. God kings, you could say. In this background specifically, you grew up in a land of living gods. As a child, you were told countless stories of ancient empires and buried cities. In these tales, Bulthorand was a land overflowing with forgotten riches, priceless treasures awaiting anyone cunning and brave enough to seek them out. You've taken it upon yourself to explore your homeland's crypts, tombs, and pyramids to reclaim your people's relics. You get investigation and religion skill proficiencies, you get mason's tool proficiency, and you get the lucky feat, which is very important for this build. And then you also get to increase dexterity, intelligence, or constitution. We're going to be doing intelligence and dexterity, 2 in intelligence, 1 in dexterity. And if you're actually playing this character in a Forgotten Realms setting, pretty interesting origin story. With most Forgotten Realms campaigns taking place on the Sword Coast, you're from a very different area. And then for species, we're just going to pick human, pretty typical. Remember, humans get a heroic inspiration at the end of a long rest. That's nice. Get an extra skill proficiency. I picked Arcana just because I like having Arcana proficiency, especially with how the magic item rules work. And then you get a second origin feat as a human. And we're going to pick our first new origin feat. This you can also pick with a background. My guess for this character is they were living in this faraway place, but then they moved to Baldur's Gate. They encountered the Zentaurum and they joined the Zentaurum. And for Zentarium, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And for Zentarium Ruffian, you get 2 abilities. You get Exploit Opening. When you roll damage for an opportunity attack, you can roll the damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. Pretty sweet. And then Family First, if you have heroic inspiration when you roll initiative, you can expend it to give yourself and your allies advantage on the initiative roll. And you're a human, so you already start out with heroic inspiration at the end of a long rest. So pretty sweet combo. You're probably going to give yourself and all your allies advantage on initiative rolls. The main reason we're taking this origin feat though is for a later feat that requires this feat as a prerequisite. So just keep that in mind. For ability scores, we have an 8 in strength, a 15 in dexterity with the +1 in dexterity, making it a 16. We have a 14 constitution, 15 intelligence with a +2 in intelligence, making it a 17, a 10 in wisdom, and an 8 in charisma. For equipment, by the way, make sure to get like leather armor, at least for the first few levels. Get a short sword and a scimitar. And for level 1, we're going to be going into Rogue. For core traits, I just picked Stealth, Perception, Deception, and Intimidation. You can pick whatever you want though. Those are just skills that I think are really important. Intimidation is more of a roleplay one. And then for expertise, I would probably go Perception and Stealth. And I'll take Rogue again for level 2. We gain Cunning Action. We can bonus action Dash, Disengage, and Hide. And remember, at level 1, we also got Sneak Attack. You guys know how Sneak Attack works, I assume, but we get to add extra d6s to our damage, and it just requires us to be using a finesse or ranged weapon. Oh, also, I forgot to mention weapon masteries for level 1. We are going with Scimitar Nick and Short Sword Vex. Nick means as long as we're using 2 light weapons, we can use the light weapon property ability to do a bonus action attack without using a bonus action. So already at level 1, we can do 2 attacks with our short sword and our scimitar. 1 with our short sword, 1 with our scimitar. And yeah, level 2, we get cunning action. Level 3, we get our subclass, and we're going to be going with the Scion of the Three Rogue. It's a pretty cool new subclass. You also get steady aim, which we might actually use occasionally in this build because our bonus action is going to be free, at least at lower levels most of the time, so that's good to know. But with Scion of the Three Rogue, we get a couple abilities. First, we get this awesome new ability called Bloodthirst. When an enemy you can see within 30 feet of yourself takes damage and is bloodied, after taking that damage but not killed outright, you can take a reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of that enemy. You can then make 1 melee attack. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of once, and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So yeah, we're going to be able to do a reaction attack if a creature is bloodied. We're going to prioritize waiting to use this when our allies make a creature bloodied so that we can get sneak attack off a second time, because sneak attack, you can use it once per turn, but it doesn't say once per your turn. So if you're able to attack when it's not your turn with a reaction, you can get sneak attack off twice. Technically, you could use this when you make a creature bloodied, but you wouldn't be able to do sneak attack a second time. Something to keep in mind. Then we get Dread Allegiance. You choose one of the dead 3, Bane, Ball, or Merkel. You gain resistance to 1 type of damage and the ability to cast a cantrip, as detailed in the table below. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability modifier for that cantrip. When you finish a long rest, you can change your choice. So we have Bane, Ball, and Merkel. Bane, we get psychic damage in the minor illusion cantrip. Ball, we get poison damage in the blade ward cantrip. Merkel, we get necrotic damage resistance and the chill touch cantrip. I would say, especially here at lower levels, I would most of the time go with Ball. First of all, blade ward is probably the best cantrip on this list for a melee rogue. And poison is a very common damage type to come into contact with, so probably the best resistance on here. Depending on the campaign you're playing in, you might want to switch to the other ones, or if you know you're going to be like fighting undead, it would be good to switch to the necrotic resistance one. But yeah, I would assume most of the time you're going to be having the ball one chosen, but yeah, it's up to you. And roleplay wise, this person being in Baldur's Gate, they somehow became aware of the Dead 3, and they formed some sort of allegiance to the Dead 3, and now they have attained these supernatural powers. So yeah, pretty cool. All right, and before we get our feat at level 4 rogue, we're actually gonna take 1 level into wizard. You could do this at any time. I just am doing it now because I wanted to get that subclass as quickly as possible. But yeah, we're gonna go into wizard, and we're gonna take 1 level into wizard real quick. We really want to get the true strike cantrip. If we're not using the option that gives us poison resistance, then pick up blade ward. Blade ward is a really good cantrip. Acid splash is kind of a good cantrip to have since it does AoE damage, might be useful. And you definitely want to pick up mage armor, shield, and the other spells don't really matter, pick your favorite. I picked this new spell, Spellfire Flare. Radiant damage will become important in this build later, so that's why I picked this. But yeah, it's basically a first level spell that ignores half cover, 3/4 cover. It's kind of like a radiant damage Scorching Ray that does a few less blasts, but it has other benefits, so yeah. Pretty cool new spell. And then I also picked Witch Bolt. Witch Bolt could be pretty good for this build depending on how many rounds you have in combat. If you're gonna have a lot of rounds in combat, your bonus action is gonna be free most of the time. So if you spend your initial action casting this and then you get to bonus action do 1d12 lightning, it could be pretty good at low levels. But then we go back into rogue for character level 5. We get our first feat, and this is Spellfire Adept. So normally this requires an origin feat that we don't have, but you also can just be a spellcaster and get this feat. And we are a spellcaster now that we have a level into wizard. And we also get to increase our intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. We're of course going to increase our intelligence. And we get 2 other new abilities. We get Fueled Spellfire. Once per turn, when a spell you cast deals radiant damage, you can expend up to 2 hit point dice, roll them, and add the total rolled to 1 damage roll of the spell. And then Searing Spellfire. When you make a damage roll that deals radiant damage, it ignores resistance to radiant damage. So yeah, that's pretty sweet because we have access to True Strike, and if we want, we can use our hit dice to basically do a Divine Smite without any action resource cost. The reason I say Divine Smite and not another spell too is because rogues have D8 hit dice, and so it'd be up to 2d8. And that's literally what Divine Smite damage is. So yeah, I really like this feat, and I feel like depending on your table, if you don't do a lot of short rests, this feat is going to be very desirable, and a lot of builds are going to be using it. And then level 6, we go back into Wizard. I'm going to go with the Scholar feature at level 2. I'm going to get Expertise in Arcana. But now that we're here at level 6, I'm going to be doing the damage breakdown. All right, for my damage breakdowns, what I usually do is I have a scenario of 4 rounds, and then I average out the damage. But I also explain to you what I do every round, so you can kind of understand how this character is played. One thing about this build that's going to be a little bit harder to calculate the damage for, though, is Bloodthirst is something that triggers only when an enemy gets the bloodied condition, and we're only going to try to use it when one of our allies bloodies a creature. If you don't know, by the way, bloodying a creature is when the creature gets to half hit points. I've decided for this damage breakdown that I feel like in a 4-round combat, we might be able to get to use this twice. If you think that's too much, and you think it's more likely to happen maybe once in a 4-round combat, then just know that the damage might be a little bit lower. I'm assuming we can do it twice. So round 1, we attack with our scimitar and our short sword. We have the Nick and Vex mastery. I also have the lucky feat. I'm going to be assuming that most of the time we have advantage, because first of all, based on my positioning, if I'm already within melee range of the enemy, I can use my bonus action to use steady aim to give myself advantage. I also have the lucky origin feat, and I have 3 uses of it per long rest right now. And then I have the Vex mastery. So if we don't have advantage on the first hit from some other reason, we're going to use a luck point, get advantage on it. We're going to cast True Strike so that we hit with our intelligence modifier. And as a level 6 character, True Strike adds a d6, and then we're going to add our sneak attack damage, which right now is 2d6. So if you include the weapon die, that's a total of 4d6 plus 4, and then we're doing radiant damage, so we can use up to 2 of our hit point dice to add up to 2d8 or 2d6 depending on the dice we use of damage. We're going to assume that we're using it for this first attack, and we're going to use 2 of our rogue hit dice. That adds 2d8, so that's 4d6 plus 2d8 plus 4. And then after that, we're going to do a bonus action Nick attack. And so for the first round, that's 28.2 damage on average. And then the second round, we do the same thing. And I said we're going to assume that we get to do Bloodthirst at least twice in a 4-round combat. So we're going to assume that the second round of combat, we're able to use our Bloodthirst ability. So it's essentially the exact same thing as round 1, but we also get a reaction attack that we can add our sneak attack to. We are going to use 2 of our hit dice again. I know that's a bit scary, but hopefully you have health potions, or you have a cleric in the party, or you don't do that many short rests anyway. This build is a little risky, but that's what's kind of fun about it. I'm not going to touch my wizard hit dice. That's going to stay where it is. Also, keep in mind this reaction attack we cannot use True Strike with. So this is just going to be our sneak attack and our weapon damage dice. It's also using our dexterity, not our intelligence, which is 1 lower right now. But the total damage for that round is 40. And then round 3 is a pretty normal round. It's just True Strike. We're not going to be using our hit dice anymore to add radiant damage. We're not going to do that for the 3rd round. We get our Nick attack. We don't trigger Bloodthirst. And then the final round is very similar to round 2, but we don't get to add our hit dice in damage. So we get another Bloodthirst off and a second sneak attack. So round 3 is 19.77 damage, and round 4 is 31.56. And that makes the level 6 average damage per round 29.88 DPR. So pretty good for a level 6 character. All right, for level 7, we're going to be going into Wizard yet again, and we're going to be getting our Wizard subclass, and that's going to be Bladesinger. We get 2 new abilities with Bladesinger. We get Blade Song, and we get Training in War and Song. Go ahead and read this out. So Blade Song is a bonus action. You invoke an elven magic called the Blade Song. Provided you aren't wearing armor or using a shield, the Blade Song lasts for 1 minute and ends early if you have the incapacitated condition. If you don armor or shield, or if you use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon, you can dismiss the Blade Song at any time, no action required. While the Blade Song is active, you gain the following benefits. You can invoke the Blade Song a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish your long rest. You regain 1 expended use when you use Arcane Recovery. So we have agility, you gain a bonus to your AC equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1, and your speed increases by 10 feet. In addition, you have advantage on dexterity acrobatics checks. And then blade work. Whenever you attack with a weapon with which you have proficiency, you can use your intelligence modifier for the attack and damage rolls, instead of using your strength or dexterity. And then focus. When you make a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration, you can add your intelligence modifier to the total. So this is all great stuff for this build. First of all, I want to explain the agility AC increase. So we're going to be casting mage armor on ourselves, and we're going to ditch our leather armor now because we can't have armor on or wearing a shield to use Blade Song. But we get to add our intelligence modifier to our AC on top of mage armor. So mage armor gives us 13 armor class plus our dexterity modifier. And now we're also including our intelligence modifier. That makes our armor class right here 20. And as soon as we get our intelligence to 20, it'll make our armor class 21. So we have a very beefy armor class for this level. And we're not even wearing a shield or wearing armor, so that's pretty cool. 10 feet of extra movement's great. And then we have blade work. We now get to use our intelligence modifier for our attacks. So even though we're using True Strike, and True Strike already uses our intelligence modifier, for our offhand attacks or for our bloodthirst attacks, we aren't able to use True Strike. So those have a lower to hit chance and they don't have as high of a bonus to the damage. So this is great. We can now use our intelligence and we don't have to worry about that. So that's super nice. And now we also get to add our intelligence to our constitution saving throws to maintain concentration, which is really nice. There's not any spells we're currently concentrating on in the damage per round, but you're probably going to be concentrating on something some of the time, and this will be a nice little addition. And then we get training in War and Song. You gain proficiency with all martial weapons that don't have the two-handed and heavy property. We already had this, but we can also use a melee weapon, which we're proficient in as a spell casting focus for our wizard spells. And so yeah, that's great. We don't have to worry about the fact that we're wielding 2 weapons. And then we get another proficiency. I just went ahead and went with acrobatics. We also have advantage on acrobatics dexterity checks, so it's nice to also have proficiency in it. So we're gonna not fail our acrobatics checks very often. And then level 4 wizard, level 8 character. We're just gonna get our intelligence up to 20 with a regular ability score improvement, plus 2 in intelligence. So now we have a 20 intelligence. That makes our attacks a +5. That makes our armor class 21. We're doing great there. Level 9 character, we're also going to go 1 more level into rogue. This gives us uncanny dodge. Again, we're trying to use our reactions for bloodthirst, but this is a nice reaction to have because if we're dead, we can't be doing any bloodthirst anyway. So yeah. Also here at level 5, we do get another D6 added to our sneak attack. All right, for the level 9 damage per round, I'm not going to be explaining as much how each round goes because it's basically exactly the same as the level 6 damage per round. The main difference is we're using our bonus action to activate Blade Song. I'm still assuming we can only use Bloodthirst twice, and I'm going to be only using 4 hit dice, just like the last damage per round for the extra radiant damage on our True Strike attacks. But remember, now we're using intelligence for all of our attacks. We have a beefy armor class. If we decide to concentrate on a spell, we have a +7 to con. That's really, really good. So the most damaging round, which I wrote here for round 2, is if we are able to use True Strike, add our hit dice to the damage, and also get a Bloodthirst off with our reaction. That's 47.92 damage per round. But the total average damage per round, considering everything I just mentioned, is 36.39 DPR. So not a huge bump in damage, but we're definitely a much better character overall. So yeah. All right, so for the next 3 levels, we're going into Rogue. Level 6 Rogue, we gain expertise. I went with acrobatics and investigation, pretty good skills to have. Level 7 Rogue, we get evasion. If we succeed on a dexterity saving throw, we take no damage if we normally take take half damage. Nice little ability to have. We also get reliable talent, great rogue ability. When we make an ability check using one of our skills or tool proficiencies, we treat any d20 test of 9 or lower as a 10. And then level 8 rogue, level 12 character, we get another feat. And we went with this really cool one that I think most rogues will desire getting at some point. We have Zentarium Tactics. Just be aware that this requires the origin feat, Zentarium Ruffian. You get a few things with this feat. So we've already capped our intelligence. So the skill that we want to get up now is our dexterity, because even though our weapon attacks are all intelligence now, dexterity still helps with our armor class. And also when we're using our cunning strike rogue abilities, that still goes off dexterity. So we get a +1 in dexterity, so that's really nice. Then we get this amazing ability. It says immediately after a creature within 5 feet of you hits you with a melee attack, you can make an opportunity attack against that creature. So this gives us a second way to use our reaction to get sneak attack off. Also, with the Zentarium origin feat, anytime we deal damage with an opportunity attack, we can roll all the damage dice twice and take the higher roll. So that's a pretty cool combo, especially with a rogue and sneak attack. Man, was the math hard to figure out for this though. I spent 2.5 hours today calculating all the damage stuff, and man, I'm tired from that. But anyway, we also get Versatile Merc. When you finish a long rest, choose a skill in which you have proficiency. You have expertise in that skill until you finish your next long rest. So we're already a super skill monkey rogue, and now we get even more expertise. That's amazing. So now we're going to do damage per round here at level 12. If I haven't told you in a while, sneak attack is now 4d6. So there's a little update there for you. True strike is now 2d6. And we've added some new spells that I forgot to mention for wizard that I'll go ahead and mention now. Also ignore where it says divine smite. The damage calculator that I was using uses the character sheet, and I needed a way to add the 2d8 radiant damage from our hit dice. So I added divine smite to the character sheet so I could add 2d8 damage to it. So yeah, just ignore that. This character does not have access to divine smite, but they kind of do in a way. Anyway, a while back we got access to second level spells, and I want to explain to you some of them because there's one new spell that I think would be desirable. We have Elminster's Illusion. This is a bonus action spell, and since we're not really concentrating on anything at this level, and after we get our blade song active, our bonus action is pretty free. So I could see on second round casting this, especially if you're fighting a caster. So bonus action spell, concentration 10 minutes, verbal somatic components. Arcane wards protect you against magic for the duration. You have advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects. Additionally, if you succeed on a saving throw against a spell or magical effect, it would normally take half as much damage. You instead take no damage. So yeah, we get advantage on all saving throws against spells and magical effects. But already with Rogue, when we succeed on a dexterity saving throw, we don't take half damage. Now it works with any type of saving throw from a spell or magical effect. So yeah, I think this is a great defensive spell, great pick for this character. This is a must-have, especially for this level tier. I also added Misty Step. You're already teleporting around, you might as well add another way to teleport, especially with your bonus action being free most of the time. This will get you where you need to go. Really nice pickup. Also, I'm going to do a hit dice update for you. We now have 8d8s that if we would like to, we can use for Spellfire Adept. And if we use our rogue hit dice, it still leaves us with 4d6 for healing, which isn't a lot, but I'm willing to sacrifice life force for damage. And I feel like this Worshipper of Baal, Bane, and Merkel does too. So now with 8d8s in a 4-round combat, we can add 2d8s for every single round, which is pretty sweet. And then we also added a new way to get a reaction attack. I've decided that because we can reaction attack with Bloodthirst when a creature is bloodied, or we can reaction attack when we get hit, we can make an opportunity attack. I've decided now that in a 4-round combat, we can get Bloodthirst off twice, and we can get an opportunity attack off once. If you think that's unrealistic, I get what you mean. Honestly, I might even take mage armor off to lower our armor class, which is a little risky, but if we really want to get that damage in, 21 armor class might be a little high for a lot of things to hit us ever. So maybe take away some defense for a little more offense, you know? For context, by the way, taking off mage armor leaves our armor class at 18, And we still have shield if we really don't want to get hit. So yeah. All right, so let's go over this damage. So round 1, we're bonus action blade songing. We don't get a reaction attack on this first round. You know, the enemies need to be hit a little bit more to get them bloodied. And we do about 38.89 damage. Round 2 comes around. We do true strike sneak attack just like round 1. But then a creature is bloodied. We reaction teleport to them, get a second sneak attack off. That makes the total damage for this round 53.27. Round 3 comes around. We true strike, sneak attack, do our usual thing. Then some enemy gets close to us. They hit us. We then, as a reaction, can opportunity attack hit them. And the damage will be a little bit higher because specifically with opportunity attacks, we're able to roll the damage dice twice and take the higher roll. This makes it just 54.61 DPR, so very slightly higher. And then round 4, we're also able to get Bloodthirst off, so it's the same damage as round 2 at 53.27. That makes our average DPR for level 12, 50 DPR, which is pretty nice. All right, so now we're going to go into Wizard for the next 3 levels. So level 5 Wizard, we get Memorize Spell. When you finish a short rest, you can study your spell book and replace one of the level 1 wizard spells you have prepared from your spellcasting feature with another level 1 spell from the book. So yeah, we can switch out spells. That's pretty nice to have. And we also get access to level 3 spells. I would pick Spirit Shroud, as well as this new spell, Cacophonic Shield. I did not end up using this spell in the DPR calculations, but this could potentially be a really nice one to have up. The main problem with it though is it uses your whole action to cast it, but this is basically a new wizard spell that's kind of like a Spirit Guardians that's thunder damage. It also gives you resistance to thunder damage. It deafens creatures that fail their save, and ranged attack rolls are at disadvantage against you. It has a bit smaller of an emanation compared to Spirit Guardians at a 10-foot emanation. And then when they fail, it deals 3d6 thunder damage. So if there's like a lot of little small enemies, like there's a bunch of goblins, this would be a pretty solid spell to pick, especially because you're a melee combatant anyway with a high armor class. Why not take it, you know? It could be good in certain situations. But then we also get access to Spirit Shroud, and it's a bonus action spell that adds 1d8 damage to every single attack you make within 10 feet of you. So it doesn't work with super far ranged attacks, but we're a melee rogue anyway, so that doesn't really matter for us. Also, the damage can be radiant, necrotic, or cold damage. We're obviously going to be going with radiant damage. And then any creature that takes this damage can't regain hit points until the start of your next turn. Kind of a nice little addition, not going to come up a whole lot. And then any creature of your choice that you can see that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. So a little speed reduction as well. It's also nice that it's a bonus action, and we're going to be doing this in the DPR calculations. First round, we bonus action activate Blade Song. Second round, we bonus action activate Spirit Shroud. Then level 6, we get the Bladesinger Extra Attack. Bladesinger Extra Attack works very similarly to the College of Valor Bard's extra attack. It says you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. Moreover, you can cast one of your wizard cantrips that has a casting time of an action in place of one of those attacks. So now we're making 3 attacks per round with our action because of the Nick weapon mastery, and one of those attacks is going to be True Strike. And then if we get a reaction attack off, that's 4 attacks per round, and we're most likely going to have Spirit Shroud up, so that's 4d8 per round when we get a reaction attack, 3d8 normally with True Strike. Pretty sweet. And then we take one more level into Wizard, or level 7, and that means we have access to 4th level spells, and we're actually going to be picking up Conjure Minor Elementals. So Conjure Minor Elementals is very similar to Spirit Shroud. It does a little bit more damage. It's not radiant damage, it's an elemental damage type of our choice. So I decided to calculate the DPR with Spirit Shroud and with Conjure Minor Elementals, and we'll compare to see which one is better. The downside of Conjure Minor Elementals is it's a full action to activate, whereas Spirit Shroud is a bonus action. So it would require a whole setup round, which takes away a decent amount of damage. But on the bright side, Conjure Minor Elementals has a 10-minute duration. So if you happen to know that a fight is coming, you could precast this. But for the DPR calculations, we're not going to assume that we're precasting. All right, so it's the same as the last DPR, except now we're able to cast Spirit Shroud, or we're able to cast Conjure Minor Elementals, which does add a significant amount of more damage. We're also able to get an extra attack after we True Strike, and then our Nick attack as well. And remember, Nick makes it so we don't have to use our bonus action for that attack. So we're just straight up doing 3 attacks with our action, one of those being True Strike. So round 1, we're either using Blade Song and attacking, or we're using Blade Song and casting Conjure Minor Elementals. So the DPR, if we just use Blade Song, is 40.46, and obviously if we cast Conjure Minor Elementals, it is 0 damage, unless we're able to get a reaction attack, of course, on the first round, which would be nice. Round 2 comes around though, and this round we're assuming that we're getting a Bloodthirst reaction attack off. And remember, every single round we're adding that extra 2d8 radiant damage from our hit dice when we use True Strike. So with Spirit Shroud up, that's 72.28 DPR. And if we have Conjure Minor Elementals up, it's 89.84 DPR. Round 3 is very similar, but this round is the round that we do our opportunity attack, which means we can re-roll all the dice and choose the higher roll. So for Spirit Shroud, it is 73.97. For Conjure Minor Elementals, it is 92.53. And then round 4 is the exact same as round 3. We get a Bloodthirst off. That makes the average damage with Spirit Shroud being 64.74 DPR. And the average damage for Conjure Minor Elementals is 68 DPR. So it is higher, but just a little bit, and that's because we skip the first round of combat casting Conjure Minor Elementals. So it is actually worth it at this level tier, especially if you're able to cast it before combat starts. All right, so we're going back into Rogue for level 16 and 17. Level 9 Rogue, we get this new ability called Strike Fear. We gain a new Cunning Strike option. This one is Terrify, costs 1d6. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw, or it has the Frightened condition for 1 minute. This is based on your dexterity, by the way, not your intelligence, but we've been upping our dexterity, so that's good. While the target is frightened in this way, you have advantage on attack rolls against the target. So sweet, another way to gain advantage if we'd like to, with a little drop in damage. The frightened target repeats the save at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. So this is a nice little bonus. I did not calculate it into the DPR, but just know that that's an option you have now. And then we get a feat. This is kind of an odd choice, especially because we've already maxed out our intelligence. If you don't want to sacrifice your hit dice, I would have taken Warcaster at level 4 Rogue and used this as your +1 to intelligence, but we unfortunately really want Warcaster. So we're just upping our wisdom, but it doesn't really do anything because our wisdom score is already an even 10. But this is a very important feat that we want for this build because we have a way to do a reaction opportunity attack after we get hit with an attack. And Warcaster gives us the ability that when we do an opportunity attack, we can cast a spell instead of doing a weapon attack, and we can cast True Strike. Also, the Spellfire Adept ability to add 2 of your hit dice to an attack, its only limitation is once per turn. So we could add that on top of it as well. We also get advantage on Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration on spells. Even though we already get to add our intelligence modifier to our con saves, this will give us even a better chance to keep concentration on our spells. And at this point in the game, we are actually concentrating on spells pretty regularly. So this is a really nice pickup for those 2 reasons. Also, rogues get an extra feat at this level anyway, so you can kind of just view it as a little extra bump that most classes wouldn't get access to. All right, so we're doing a hit dice update.
Hit dice update!
We now have 10 d8s and we have 7 d6s. I've decided for the DPR calculations, we're still going to have only 1 reaction attack that's an opportunity attack. And because we have 2 more hit dice, I am going to be using Spellfire Adept to the opportunity attack that we are able to now make with True Strike. But just know that now opportunity attack reaction attacks are better for you than the Bloodthirst attack, because with Bloodthirst, you still cannot use True Strike, but you can use True Strike with opportunity attacks that you get from the Zentarium feat. Also, I did discover doing the math this time that Spirit Shroud will be doing more damage than Conjure Minor Elementals if you're not able to get it off before combat starts. So I'm just going to tell you the Spirit Shroud damage, but just know that the damage will be higher for Conjure Minor Elementals still if you're able to get it off before combat starts. So round 1 is the usual round 1, True Strike. We get our 2 attacks off after True Strike. We add our hit dice, and this is after we bonus action Blade Song. Round 2 comes around, we bonus action Spirit Shroud. We do True Strike, we do our 2 attacks. We get Bloodthirst as a reaction. That's 97.5 DPR. If I didn't say round 1, by the way, it's 55.1 DPR. So for round 3, we do our regular thing, Sneak Attack, True Strike, hit dice damage, 2 regular attacks. Then we get our opportunity attack reaction, and we get to do True Strike and Sneak Attack again. That makes the DPR for this 116.51. And then round 4 is just the same damage as round 2 at 97.5. This makes our average DPR here at level 17 91.65 DPR. Pretty sweet. All right, so if you're able to get all the way to level 20, I got some crazy stuff in store for you. So first of all, we go 2 more levels into Rogue. We get improved Cunning Strike. We can use 2 Cunning Strike effects when you deal sneak attack damage, paying the die cost for each effect. So that's pretty cool. I haven't really implemented Cunning Strike options into this build, but remember, you can like trip people, you can poison creatures, you can do the Terrify one that the subclass gives us, and you could trip someone and fear them now, for example. So that's pretty cool options. And then we get another ability score improvement. I just went ahead and capped out our dexterity, +2 in dexterity. This actually makes our dexterity 19, but don't worry. Our final level, level 20, we're going to be going into Wizard one more time, and we get another feat. We went for the epic boon feat of Exquisite Radiance. And also, we cap out our dex to 20 here because we can do any stat. We went with dexterity. You get this very situational ability called Eternal Rest. Creatures you reduce to 0 hit points can't become undead. But then we get this really cool once per long rest ability that is great for this build. We get Powerful Radiance. When you make a damage roll that deals radiant damage, you can instead use the highest number possible for each damage die. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Keep in mind, True Strike converts all the damage of your weapon attack into radiant damage. Sneak attack dice are whatever damage your weapon damage is. Spellfire Adept lets us add 2 of our hit dice to our radiant damage attack, adding 2d8 radiant damage. Spirit Shroud adds 1d8 radiant damage to our weapon attack. So when we sneak attack, True Strike, Spellfire Adept, Spirit Shroud attack someone, it's already all radiant damage. And with this ability, once per long rest, we can have all those damage dice be the max dice. And if we crit, all those damage dice are doubled and then maxed out. Absolutely insane. Only 1 hit per long rest, but this hit would be insane. Anyway, let's go ahead and break it down. So round 1's the usual thing that we've been doing this whole time. Oh, by the way, since our dexterity has gone up by +3, we now have a 20 dexterity, and that makes our armor class 23. And we also have the shield spell. So yeah, really high AC if we want it to be at least. We can reduce it by 3 by taking off mage armor, so keep that in mind. Our sneak attack dice is 66 now. Our true strike dice is 3d6. Round 1 is the usual bonus action Blade Song, do our True Strike Sneak Attack, 2 regular attacks afterwards for 59.49 DPR. Round 2 comes around, we bonus action Spirit Shroud. Now that we have Spirit Shroud up, let's go ahead and use our Epic Boon Feat ability. And with our True Strike Sneak Attack at the beginning of this round, we are going to make all that damage dice the maximum damage, which is 1d6 from your weapon, 66 from Sneak Attack, 3d6 from True Strike, 2d8 from Spellfire Adept, and 1d8 from Spirit Shroud. And then we make our regular 2 attacks. And in this round, we also get a reaction Bloodthirst attack. So we can't use True Strike for this attack, but we get a reaction Bloodthirst attack off. The total damage for all those 4 attacks is 149 DPR. If we crit on that first attack, and still including the other 3 attacks, that is 239 DPR. So you might want to save this for a crit, but just know that. A lot of damage. Round 3 is 180 18 DPR. That's if we get the opportunity attack, so we can true strike and sneak attack a second time. And then round 4 is like round 2 minus using the epic boon feat for 100.26 DPR. That makes our average damage per round for level 20 106.8 DPR. Woo! That's pretty good for a rogue, I have to say. You also have one of the highest armor classes that you can get in the game with no armor on. You're pretty versatile with your spells. You are a level 8 wizard. You have plus 17 in some skills, investigation, stealth, and acrobatics with reliable talent. Keep that in mind. Yeah, this is a pretty sweet level 20 character. Kind of love it. Thank you guys for watching. This build was super fun to make. I'm going to be making build videos a bit more often now because we have so much more content to work with. So if you like these build videos or you just want to be updated on D&D news or D&D content, go ahead and consider subscribing down below. It means a lot to me and is free for you. And remember, I do also have a Patreon down below, and I come out with 2024 compatible PDFs every month. You can even just sign up as a free member and get notifications when I release new content. Let me know down below how you would make this build differently, maybe some mistakes I made, or just things I overlooked in general. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.